right, so welcome to Zap Chat with Ovis. I'm your host, Linton Johnson, along with my co-host, Tracy Grant. We're
Hello.
both journalists with more than 40 years of experience and between us, and we're both kind of fed up with the corporate media. I mean, a little bit more than just kind of fed up with the corporate media. We're sick and tired of the impact, of fake news and misinformation, and how that impact has had, what that impact has had on communities of color and other communities. We started Ovis because we want to take back the truth. Ovis is a fast growing movement dedicated to ending fake news and ensuring that reporters and the stories that they tell are trusted, verifiable, and accountable to we the people. And our topic tonight is the misinformation surrounding the 1994 crime bill and its impact on the Black community. We're going to have two guests on Zap Chat tonight. The first will be Karam Anal. He's a Ovis certified fact checker. And our second guest will be the former vice president of the NAACP and board member. His name is Wayne Winston. We'll have him on in a second. But let's first bring on Karam. Karam is a fact checker. Karam, welcome to the Ovis Zap Chat community and our new show today. I want to ask you a couple of different questions about what misinformation that you have found out there about the 1994 crime bill, and what's been circulating out there? What have you found as a fact checker?
Hello, good to be here again. So yeah, I looked into what people were talking about doing about the crime bill, and it kind of boiled down to small quotes that small words that people were using on Twitter. It wasn't really a large conversation that I saw, or large forums that I saw this being conversed in. Although probably there is. On Twitter, the large amount of engagement is more on tweets that have the crime bill in it, and together with Biden calling people super predators, the Black people super predators, which was also inaccurate. Also, an inaccurate quote from Biden that says, "I don't want my children to grow up in a jungle, in a racial jungle," which also is a misquote. It didn't exactly say that. It was taken out of context. So it was all kind of fit into the narrative that Biden is racially motivated and is not doing anything good for the Black people, and that kind of is where the conversation is heading online.
Yeah, this crime bill, I mean, people have brought it up for years. It's almost become one of those things. It's based more in legend in some ways than in fact. I find that a lot of people may refer to it, but not necessarily know what it really was. And it's taken on kind of a life of its own.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So it came up during the debates, and Trump kind of hammered down on Biden on the way that Biden led the bill and the way he brought it up. And there was some misspeaks there. So yes, the crime bill did. The main thing is that there was an uptick in crime until 1994, where the crime bill was brought in. So the uptick continued to grow after the crime bill. So it's not accurate to say that the crime bill was solely responsible for the uptick in more incarceration, but it did have an effect. So it's not wrong, but it's not the sole reason for the uptick in incarceration after 1994. It's a trend that we were seeing since the 1970s and kind of continued after the crime bill was brought in.
Hey, Karen, so why don't you, for those viewers who are unfamiliar with the crime bill, give us a little bit of background. I know it passed 95-4 in its final vote in the Senate, so it had widespread support. But what was it designed to do?
It was designed to get people, designed to lower the violent crimes that we were seeing in the United States, and it did this by trying to add 100,000 new police officers, new cops. So in community members, community police officers, and it was trying to get more people. It was trying to get people incarcerated, basically. But it had this three strike system that it was talking about, and that made it if people had three violent crimes, they commit three violent crimes, they would be incarcerated for a longer period of time. So it was more focused on trying to get the crime situation in order in the country.
So with this crime bill, 95 to four, yeah, 95 to four, I believe was the final vote on it. That suggests that a whole lot of people, not just Biden, supported this bill. But it seems like the misinformation that is out there is because what it says basically, at least what I see online, is that this was all Biden, 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 Biden. Is it because he was the sponsor of it? That's why it's kind of attached to his name, and is that a fair way to attach him to this bill?
Yeah, well, Biden, well, as Bernie quoted himself, he wrote the bill, right? So Biden did actually wrote and he write the bill, and he did kind of he did promote the bill as much as he could at the time.
Mhm.
So I think it is fair to say that he was the main person who was writing, distributing, and talking about the bill. But yes, it had support, bipartisan support. It had support from the Congressional Black Caucus, Republicans, African American pastors. There are a number of people supporting the bill. It wasn't just Biden, but I think it is fair to say that Biden was the main person that was sponsoring the bill, that was writing the bill.
And so, what other misinformation have you found out there that has negatively impacted the Black community? If you found anything on that on this bill?
So I think that's the issue. I mainly found misinformation in context with other misinformation combined together, and that's what we see in misinformation in general. It's usually not just one fact that's wrong. It's usually a bunch of little facts that have been skewed in a little way that get people more emphatic about it, more um, you know emotional about it. So it's about a bunch of things put together in small tweets, tweeted out with no sources at all. So it's not really one specific thing about one specific misinformation about this crime bill. It's a bunch of small misinformations stacked together. Like I said, like the quote, the super predator quote, that wasn't from Biden, but it was being portrayed as Biden said it.
One of the things that you do as a fact checker is you're certified in being able to find the truth. There's a methodology to it. When you're bringing up this information, when you went out looking for misinformation about the crime bill, what were your methods to ensure that the information that you're
So,
finding is right?
Linda, I don't hear you at all. Sorry, could you speak a bit louder?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that you do as a fact checker is that you're certified. You've been trained to be able to find the truth.
Trained, yeah.
Can you kind of describe that process in this particular case? How did you find this misinformation, and then how do you find the true facts behind it?
Right. Well, in this case, it was fact check a lot of times, but a bunch of fact checkers, like PolitiFact, USA Today, Reuters, they all did fact checks on this issue. When in that case, what I usually do is I look at sources. So I look at the sources that the fact checkers provide. They always have a good amount of sources there. I don't usually read the fact check itself. I go down to the sources and read the sources themselves, and then check out what they've written about it and how they rate it and stuff like that. If it was an issue that wasn't previously fact checked, which is usually the case, then I would again try to go to the source of it. So if it's about a crime bill, I would try to find the bill itself, which actually how I started this research. I started by looking at the crime bill itself. I tried to read through it as much as I could, much as I could understand, and then I kind of focused on what people wrote about in 1994, what the articles were then. And it was more of a methodology going back to the time and understanding what people were talking about doing there, and then kind of coming back here and what people are talking about it now. So it's more about understanding the whole thing as a whole instead of focusing on one little tidbit.
Fact checking has become very important these days. We need more of you out there. And one of the things that Ovis is trying to do is increase the number of fact checkers, and not just fact checkers, but trained, certified fact checkers. So I know you're the head of our fact checking task force, whatever we're going to call it, our community. So just a plug for Ovis. What we're trying to do is build a community of people who are wanting to ensure the truth. And it's going to take all of us to be able to do that. So if you're interested in becoming a fact checker, or you know somebody who might be interested, we really invite you to go to ovis.news and join our waitlist. We're building a huge community. We can't rely on the corporate media to do what we know needs to be done. We've got to do this together. If you're waiting on that white horse to come in and save us from misinformation and fake news, we got to be the people on that white horse.
Absolutely.
So let's,
And Karen, I mean, if you could just describe in terms of fact checkers, I mean, these are all sorts of different people. I mean, you don't have to be a professor or a former journalist or anything like that, right? I mean, fact checkers, you could be almost anyone and become a fact checker if you have the training.
You have to be curious. That's the
Mm.
only thing you have to be. If you're curious and you want to learn about fact checking, you can definitely learn about fact checking. There are a lot of online stuff you can start from and then kind of gradually build up from there. I learned it in my master's degree, during my master's degree. So, there's a number of ways you can learn to do fact checking, and there are a number of different fact checking techniques that you can do. You can do online verification. You can do fact checking as a journalist, so that would be more fact checking articles and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely, there's a bunch of stuff online, and if you're interested in fact checking in any way, check online sources and come back to Ovis and join a community.
I know Tracy's one of the most curious people I know, so maybe we should train
You
her.
said nosy last time. You didn't say
I did
curious.
say nosy, but I was trying to be nice. Well, thank you, Karam. Stand by because we might need you in a second here, but we want to bring on another guest. His name is Wayne Winston, and he's a former board member and vice president of the Bridgeport NAAC Connecticut chapter. And we're bringing him on because the crime bill has had an impact on the Black community, and some of the misinformation has done some bad things for the Black community. And we wanted to talk to him a little bit about what he sees the misinformation has done. There are some things about the crime bill I'm sure people wish we could change. It wasn't perfect for sure. But there are some things about the crime bill that may have been positive as well. And I wanted to ask Mr. Winston about what his thoughts are and the impact of this information on the crime bill.
Good evening, Linton. It's a pleasure.
Hello.
Welcome, Mr. Winston.
it, it's a pleasure. Great meeting you. I mean, is this being your inaugural event? I mean, I can only say coming out with fact checking first, phenomenal thing. Hopefully, you can hear me okay.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you. Maybe you're gonna have to speak up like me.
Okay, that's better. All right. Okay. Um,
You might have to
this is
shout at us.
might have to shout at me.
Yeah,
Okay. So, hopefully, can you hear me better now?
Yes, a little
Okay,
bit better.
slightly.
slightly. Okay. Wow. Okay. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let me check the
Hey,
speakers.
we're being told by the control room to please get you a little bit closer to the phone. Like I'm leaning
Okay.
in myself. Get to see
All
my big
right.
forehead. We can share
Okay.
image here.
Yeah. Maybe if you are a little closer, it might be easier to
Yeah. Let's
hear.
see.
Yeah.
Gee, this phone had better be working as much as it costs. Doggone it. Uh,
I hear that.
I
let's see.
didn't.
He said that this phone better be working as much as it cost.
Okay, I agree with
Okay.
that.
So I know that we're in it now. I mean, should you want me to restart it and then come because I was on the phone earlier and that may affect the connection. But if you can hear me okay, we can try from there. What do you think?
Well, I will translate. I can hear okay. I think Tracy's a little bit harder of hearing in this case.
Okay.
I will translate for her. I'll do sign language for her. Just
All
kidding.
right.
I
Hey.
didn't do
I'll try to
Well,
follow along.
fair
that. Okay.
enough. Fair enough. Well, first, let me tell you, I love your slogan. You can handle the truth.
We
Um,
can handle the truth. You
I
can
love it.
handle the truth. Yes.
I need that T-shirt. By the way, I'm a gamer, and my handle is "You can't handle the truth."
Oh, really? You
Oh
can't
wow.
handle the truth. Okay.
Just like
Unbelievable.
the
All right.
movie.
Been in this.
I think we came up with this first, by the way, but who knows?
I love it. I love it. Uh, you know, um, as a black organization, we've had a difficult time staying in the news vein. We always fall into entertainment. One of the reasons BET had to get out of the business was because every time guys like Ed Gordon would come on, their ratings would drop through the floor. Then you put videos back on, all of a sudden they're back on. So that has a lot to do with the audience and us as people. The impact of the crime bill is something that we're going to struggle with for a while, but it's gotten better. And I say that because it came out so long ago. There's been modifications to it. Um, we talk about where we are. It's a strategy. When you're talking about a 1994 crime bill doing an election in 2020, the Republican strategy was to drop something on black people because they knew that black people didn't trust the government. If you remember, there's something called Cambridge Analytics, and when Trump got elected, people fill out these questionnaires that when we find that's actually was the information that the Russians were taking in because they'd say, "Hey, you get a free card. You got $1,000 gift card to Walmart. Just fill out the survey." I mean, like, of course, nobody's going to give you $1,000. However, people filled it out. And when folks are in a bad way, they give it a shot. They were representing Walmart and Target and all these different companies. Just fill this thing out, and as you filled it out, because I read a couple myself. In fact, I was trying to buy something online. I'm like, why would I have to fill this out? They start asking personal questions. You know, uh, who do you like? What's your favorite color? What do you think of politics? Or you say you're a political person or not? I was like, that's enough right there. Something's wrong right here. And I didn't complete it. But we have confirmed that Cambridge Analytics was, from Russia, and it was trolling our community. They amass the information of the insecurity that we have, which says Black people don't trust the government. We certainly don't trust the police departments. So if you're creating a strategy, you're going to put all those things together and you just drop it out there because the elections now aren't just about the truth. The Republicans crossed the line, and I'm not saying that the Democrats are 100%, but but the Republicans crossed the line to the point where there's no such thing as the truth that they worry about. It's like why they put out the 1994 crime bill, and Joe Biden rode that all the way into the White House, or that he wants to ride it into the White House at the expense of Black people. You also had something that was circulating that said President Obama and Joe Biden and George Soros and Nancy Pelosi were running a sex trafficking ring out of the White House. And that was the Mexican kids. They would take them out of there and they were running a sex trafficking ring. I can't tell you how many times I got that text. I work with younger people.
So what? Can I stop you real quick? You
Go ahead.
got texts about how Obama and Nancy Pelosi were running sex trafficking rings out of the White House.
Absolutely. 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 And these were college students in Long Island. In Long Island. And from more than one, I went to a picnic during the summer. This young man was explaining it to his father at a picnic. Oh boy, that's why I don't deal with politics. I can't vote for Obama, because during a picnic, you talk about a little bit of everything. So politics came up. Did you hear about President Obama? He had a sex trafficking ring he was running. And I'm sitting here
So
listening
people
to this.
believe this stuff, this misinformation. I mean, that is it is sensational,
Mhm.
to say the least. Something like that. I've definitely heard about this. I've seen it online myself with my own
Mhm.
eyes. Um, I thought it was just a joke, but now you're telling me, and at least in your experience, you were receiving these text messages, and people then go and relay that to their families. So then it spreads like wildfire. Can you tell
Absolutely.
me? Can you tell me the misinformation? Because since we're talking about the '94 crime bill, can you tell me how the misinformation surrounding that has impacted uh, the Black community specifically?
Yes. The 94 crime bill really happened because we were in the middle of a crack epidemic. People forget about that, and younger people weren't even around then. It's like if you look at President Barack Obama, hey, he was in first Black president, and they go like, hey, and that was how long ago? 12 years ago now, 4, 8, 12. Okay, so when Obama was elected, and you're 22 now, what were you, 5, 6, 7? They don't have that connection to it. So they'll tell you in a minute, I can't vote for a man just because he's Black. He's got to be the right man, and then he gives you all the additional stuff, which opens the door to these conspiracy crazy theories like that. Now, so when they talk about the 1994 crime bill and they say Joe Biden, because he authored it, he was the one that wanted to destroy Black America, which is basically the context of what he was saying. Oh man, that's terrible. I'm not going to vote for a guy like that. I mean, I don't like Trump, but I'm not going to vote for a guy like that. So that is consistent with making you feel discouraged and hence neutralizing your vote. Because if you're indifferent, you're not going to go out there. If you believe in it, you're not going to go out there. And if you get in that lesser of two evils, then that becomes a problem because you're not giving the people credit that did the work. There's new activists that are out here, and they're activists since George Floyd, understandably so, outraged and so on and so forth. But once again, they were using that to reverse the psychology of the people who are out there marching, saying Joe Biden is not the guy that's going to help you with those issues. He's the one, if he's elected, he put that crime bill together that put black men in jail. So the three strikes you're out, one of the biggest issues with three strikes you're out was it contained mandatory sentencing. That was what created the real issue. Now, understand that when he was in the Clinton administration, the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. In fact, the Republicans thought it wasn't tough enough with the mandatory sentencing. So you started to get it abused because you always have people in the system that abuse people of color, black men in particular. So they started using it for people to take plea bargains. Hey, listen, you take this plea, we're going to have three strikes, you're out. You're going to have a real problem. You're going to get big time. So they started pleading them down to smaller things, and probation violations wound up being counted as three strikes. In which case, you would get all the time that they gave you before. You could have some major crime, and they would use that three strikes because it was written so loosely that it could put you back in the pen to do major time. It might have been a bad check that you wrote. So it really, 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 really got abused. Now, understand what else was in there. There was funding for community programs. There was
Can
funding
I
for after school programs. Go ahead.
just stop you right there? We're still having a lot more trouble hearing you than I thought, unfortunately. So, but I do want to say first, thank you for coming on. We'll try to get these technical issues fixed. But I'd like to continue this interview at another time when we can get the technology fixed, because I think you're making some really good points. If you're willing to come back on, obviously this is in the infancy and the growing
Absolutely.
stages of this app. We're really excited about being part of Zap Life, and we're really excited to have you on. But we do want people to be able to understand the impact this has had. So
Mhm.
if you're okay with coming back, we'd like to have you
Absolutely.
on as a guest again. Okay,
Yes,
great.
and when you come back, I'd love to talk about, because there's some of this reminds me of Dukakis, and wasn't there a whole thing back then
Yes. Yes.
about the way he felt about crime that people say
Yes.
was misinterpreted?
Willie Horton.
Yes, there you
Think
go.
Willie
about it.
Horton,
That's
right?
that's
Yeah,
the name.
That's
yeah.
old. That's and see that's old tactics, which
Hmm.
are new tactics to this generation. They don't understand the psychological dynamic they've been using forever. And I'm gonna point out one final thing. We have a term that didn't exist before Donald Trump came in. It's the heading, fake news. He created that. It's part of his strategy. If you're not saying anything good about me, it's fake news. It was all about that. Hey, praise me. That's news. Hey, I did something right. Praise me. That's good. That's good. Oh, wait a minute. You first, I did something wrong. That's fake news. That's fake news. That's fake news. He got the media to believe anything that came from the other networks. How crazy is this? Anything from major media that we trusted, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, these are noted journalized, excuse me, these are noted journalists even, to make you mistrust them because he said that they were untrustworthy.
Well, I think part of that with Cambridge Analytics, all the information that's out there on the internet, Facebook, um, you know, these strategies that they've been using predated Donald Trump, at least
Mm-hmm.
his presidency. Um, but he kind of summed it up under two words, fake news, which
Oh,
I'm
yes.
understanding. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do here at Ovis is give people an opportunity to take back the truth. We're
Yes.
inviting people to sign up, have your community sign up at ovis.news and join the wait list, because we're going to take back the truth, and we have to do this together. We can't wait for the
Yes.
corporate media, Facebook, certainly not Donald Trump, um, to do that for us. We got to do it together. So, Wayne, I want to say thank you. I'm sure Tracy, uh, uh, thank you as well.
Yes, thank you so much. It's very nice to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Have fun out there in the Nutmeg State. And yes, I can't wait to talk to you again, because definitely there's so much more on this subject matter that we could delve into. Unfortunately, it's not working out so well tonight. But yes, we can have a nice long chat.
At your convenience, great people. I'm always willing to help. We got to save our community. That's why I love what you do. You have my support in any way that I can help. And, God bless you guys, because we are doing something that is necessary. We got to focus on that black male vote, educate those guys, because that's a whole nother story. We can't even vote. So many of them are in jail. We need to be
Mhm.
working on getting them back into the system so they can.
Yeah,
Black female don't have to do that by herself. We got to get on our game.
we
Mhm.
got to do it together. I'm not going to hand it to anybody. We got to do it together. All right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir.
Thank you. Hey, it's
All
rare to
right,
my
and I
friend.
want to say thank you to Wayne Winston again, and also Kara Manal, who is our certified fact checker. And we appreciate you watching Zap Chat. This is our very first show, and we'll be back here again, same time, same place, next week on Sunday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.